I alone can draw upon the power of the Onyx heart. Mordoc, the king of vampires. Welcome, humble adventurers, to my realm of knowledge and mystery. Here, in my cursed library, are endless tomes and scrolls on the darkest and evilest foes in all the realms. Be they from Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, the many worlds of darkness, or any realm in between. Welcome to the Dastardly decimal system. I'm your caretaker of the corrupt, the librarian, Castor Cain. And supervising as always is Vega the cat. To become a ruler for anyone is no easy task. You need more than just a great plan, an idea for change, and power. You need charisma and loyalty. With that, you can gain loyal followers with a promise of freedom, change, and prosperity. But what happens when your king is one in name only? What happens when all of his promises are lies? What happens when your ruler actually serves another master? For today's discussion, I have brewed us a pot of Dark Lord tea. This highly caffeinated tea is a bold blend of black tea, oranges, vanilla, and blue corn flour. It is a luxurious, high-quality blend meant for a dark king. So take a seat, let me pour you a cup, and we can talk about Mordoc, the king of vampires. Mordoc SaLanmere is a vampire. He has the ability to climb walls, charm a person, turn into a bat, and even transform into mist to escape death. As the king of vampires, he also has the ability to summon shadows, thralls, other vampires, and even flocks of bats to fight by his side. He wears ivory white robes that protect him in battle and allow him to dash across the battlefield. He fights with a vampiric rapier, one that with each hit will rob its opponents of its health and use it to heal himself. Little is known about Mordoc SaLanmere's origins, but often is the case with old creatures. For those unaffected by time, their lives seem to outlast recorded history, leading to lost facts about their birth or even what their lives were like before becoming a vampire. And in the case of some very, very old creatures, they themselves have also forgotten. Written history only seems to take notice of Mordoc when he became the self-appointed king of vampires. With an army of vamps, nightwalkers, and nightshades by his side, he marched into an old battlefield in the western heartlands known as the Battle of Bones. There, on the edge of the battlefield, he built the Keep of the Pale Knight, where he and his vampiric servants lived with him. He built the Keep of the Pale Knight, where he and his vampiric citizens lived with him. Chief among his armies was his second-in-command, the vampire known as Xanhast. This armored vampire protected the king against all threats, including when an assassin named Karn came to kill him. To his subjects, Mordoc was a charismatic master, with a series of plans meant to better each and every one of their lives. The vampires were downtrodden, cast out, but Mordoc was going to make their voices heard. Mordoc was going to give them a place to live. Mordoc was beholden to no man. He did not have to play the games of other kings. Mordoc was going to make Faerun great again. This, however, was a lie. In truth, the Vampire King served another master, one in Mulhorand known only as the Giver of Eternity. Together they were moving towards a singular goal, the destruction of Baldur's Gate. When the Onyx Tower appeared in the marsh of Che-Limber, Mordoc saw great potential in its powerful magics, but it was being wasted in the hands of a spurned soldier. Luckily, Mordoc was a patient soul. He falsely swore allegiance to Eldrith the Betrayer, using his charm to provide her with new armies and allies within the Drow, the Lizard Folk, and even a few dragons. He helped her build her deadly alliance and waited for the day he could betray her and gain control of the tower. When a trio of heroes defeated Eldrith and destroyed the tower, Mordoc was giddy with glee. He reached out to his master in Mulhorand and apologized for the delay. He promised them that Baldur's Gate would be destroyed very soon. Many factions wanted to rebuild the Onyx Tower, like the Zentarum, the Harpers, the Red Fang Marauders, and even a red dragon known as the Red Queen. But none of them knew what Mordoc did. The Onyx Tower could be destroyed over and over and over again. But as long as the Onyx Heart still existed, an artifact that was built in the Plane of Shadows, then the tower could be rebuilt. As the other factions feuded between each other, Mordoc traveled to the Plane of Shadows and took control of the Heart. While there, he also found a pleasant surprise. Trapped in the Plane of Shadows were the original 3 heroes that had slain Eldrith. He quickly bested the tired and injured trio, took them hostage, and locked them up in his Pale Keep. As many horrors and evils that exist in Faerun, there seems to be an abundance of people willing to step up and be heroes. So while the original 3 heroes were trapped and locked away, a company of 5 new heroes formed. They began working with the factions, traveling to each elemental plane in order to reactivate the elemental foundations, the magical source that powered the tower. The heroes were doing this so the forces of good could gain control of the tower. But unknown to them, they were unwittingly aiding Mordoc in his plans. With the Onyx Heart under his control, and power flowing back towards it, Mordoc used the magic to rebuild the tower in the Battle of Bones. He renamed it Mordoc's Tower, and it signaled the end of Baldur's Gate. When the Company of 5 returned to Baldur's Gate, they expected to do so with conflict between the various factions. Instead, they found a surprising alliance being formed. Harpers, Zentarum, and the Red Fangs had all put aside their feuds, for now, and they were going to work together to bring an end to Mordoc. The alliance began with an attack on Mordoc's home. The heroes infiltrated the Pale Keep and attacked the vampiric forces that lay there. After destroying numerous undead, they eventually reached Mordoc. Now, a vampire is a formidable foe, and the king of vampires more so. But even he was no match for 5 heavily armed heroes. Injured, Mordoc fled to the tower and began the final stage of his plan, moving the tower directly into Baldur's Gate. The Company of 5 freed the original 3 and united forces. Now, a company of 8, they returned to Baldur's Gate. What they found was chaos. Using the Onyx heart, Mordoc transformed chunks of Baldur's Gate populace into zombies, consuming their energy and growing stronger with each soul. Those that resisted the transformation were fed on by vampires, turning some allies into undead killers. For a month, this undead siege occurred, with more and more citizens being transformed each and every day. All the while, Mulhorand allies started teleporting to the tower, granting them access to Baldur's Gate. The Company of 8 fought a ground war against the vampiric army, slaying each until they eventually destroyed Zanhast. Meanwhile, the Harpers and the Zentarum had found a way into the tower. Knowing this crisis would only end with Mordoc's death, the Company of 8 ventured inwards. The battle against Mordoc was beyond difficult. The Onyx heart was swelling with magic, and the Vampire King was siphoning it into himself. Some historians say that on that night, Mordoc had almost as much power as a god. Mordoc summoned his army of vamps, shade, nightwalkers, and nightshades to assault the 8 heroes. He teleported around the battlefield in a puff of black smoke, appearing behind a hero only to strike with his life-stealing blade. He summoned swarms of crows to attack from the sky, and when things turned against him, he transformed into a bat to reposition himself. The 8 fought valiantly, losing some during the fight, and desperately using whatever magic they could to save their allies. Mordoc seemed unbeatable, but the 8 continued to fight. For if they fell, so too did Baldur's Gate, and eventually the entirety of the Sword Coast would follow. Divine magic rained upon the battlefield as the cleric summoned sunlight. The druid took the strongest of beast forms, and the necromancer turned the undead against the king. Yet still, Mordoc did not fail. The monk assaulted with a barrage of key-powered strikes. The fighter struck over and over with his strongest arcane weapons. Yet still, Mordoc did not fall. The sorcerer used the strongest of spells, and the archer used every last magical arrow in its disposal. And still, Mordoc did not fall. It was only when all 8 struck as one, using everything they had, did the Vampire King falter. With a weakness found and an opening available, they struck time and time again, eventually felling the king and finishing him with a stake before he could escape to safety. Mordoc, the Vampire King, was finally slain. With the threat at bay, the 8 heroes looked at the heart. One of them could claim it and try to use the tower for good or evil. They could also give it to one of the factions. Instead, they each agreed to destroy the heart, ridding Faerun of the Onyx Tower for good. It is way too easy to take a look at Mordoc's attack and think of only his evilness or the darkness of his hidden master. But I'd like to take a look at the other side of the equation. Mordoc built himself a kingdom. He had a populace of vampires at his side. In order to follow a king, they must have had needs that were not being met. They must have felt downtrodden, only to find themselves pulled into a war for a hidden master. I've seen it time and time again. The populace, feeling ignored, marginalized, or unheard by the current government, follows a charismatic leader who promises them change and prosperity, only for that once noble message to be turned into hate and violence. Now that populace feels trapped, unable to free themselves from a choice they once made, and an investment in a better future that they are still praying will arrive. So be angry at the Vampire King who lies and manipulates their followers. But don't forget that there were followers who were fooled and are now trapped. Join me again in my library for more stories and lore about the darkest villains from the darkest realms. This has been the Dastardly Decimal System, and once again, I am your librarian, Castor Cain, and with me as always is Vega. Do you love the Dastardly Decimal System and want to support us? Check out our new Patreon. Members will get access to show notes, official artwork, our new bonus episode series called Cleaning Up After Tea Time, and of course, plenty of cat pics of Vega voice actors Vash and Zed. You'll even be able to suggest a topic for a future episode. Check it out at patreon.com/Dastardly Decimal System. If you are not financially able and still want to support us, suggest the show to a D&D loving friend. It really helps us get noticed. The Dastardly Decimal System can be found on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and BlueSky at DD System Podcast. That's Delta Delta System Podcast. Drop us a message and say hi. Vega always loves the attention. This podcast was produced by Midnight Reading Audio, a division of Midnight Reading Publishing. The voice of Castor Cain is Larry Gent. The voice of Vega is provided by my cats, Vash and Zid. Thank you, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.